What do you think of when you hear the word Africa? Do you think of a desert or jungle? Do you think of wild animals like lions and monkeys? Do you think of a little village and mud huts? If you thought of this, don't feel bad. Many people have these views of Africa. And while this is part of Africa, there is so much more. Having grown up in Senegal, West Africa, I've heard many different misconceptions people have of Africa. So today I would like to talk about a few of those. The first one I want to talk about is that Africa is mostly just desert and there are wild animals everywhere. So while this is partially true, the Sahara Desert takes up 25% of Africa. I got that information from National Geographic, and that's in the north of Africa. But there are many, many cities in Africa, and that's where most of the population lives. So the fact that there is a lot of desert in Africa, it's only 25%, so it's not all of Africa. And yes, the country is warmer and everything in the climate, but for example, where I live in Africa, in Senegal, I live in the capital Dakar, which is a peninsula, so I live right by the ocean, so I'm like 10 minutes from the beach. I don't live in the desert at all. I live in a city with the ocean nearby, so it doesn't feel like the desert either. So that's just, Africa is not all desert. And also regarding wild animals being everywhere, many African countries have actually have few of the most popular African animals because they're going extinct. You also rarely see wild animals in the city unless it's at a zoo. So for example, I've never seen an elephant in Africa before. Granted, I only lived in Senegal, but I've only ever seen an elephant in the zoo in the States. That's because there are no more elephants in Senegal. There used to be, but there aren't anymore because they've become extinct, whether they were hunted by animals or people. There are a lot less wild animals in many different African countries. The next misconception I want to talk about is that Africa is small. Africa is the second biggest continent in the world. If the United States, China, and Brazil were combined, it would still be smaller. They would still be smaller than Africa, just to give you a little idea of how big it truly is. I got that information off of US Funds, the true size of Africa. There are 54 countries in Africa and up to 2,000 languages spoken. I got that information from Nations Online, spoken languages of African countries. In Senegal alone, there are 36 languages spoken. So whenever someone, it's kind of funny because whenever someone mentions to me that they have a friend from Africa or they're going to a country in Africa, I'm always like, so what country are you going to? Because Africa is just so huge and a lot of people just don't realize how big it truly is, how big the continent it truly is. And so if you know some friend in Egypt, I most likely don't know them. It's far away from me, and Africa is really big, like I just said. And the last misconception I want to talk about is Africa is very poor and undeveloped. While this is partially true, Africa is is progressing more and more every year, especially in the cities. There are hospitals and universities, malls and highways. It's progressing more and more. Of course, there are poor people. There's poverty. There's a lot of poverty in Africa. I agree that it is higher on the list of places that have poverty, but there are also a lot of people that are doing well, that are well off. There are people that have money. Just like in any place you'd go to, any country or any continent, there are people that are living in poverty and there are people that are not. So I think to say that Africa is so poor isn't completely a true statement because the cost of living there is also lower. So for someone from the States, for example, to come to Africa and see and buy things and be like, oh, everything here is so cheap. Well, for the people, it's the right amount that it should be. They get paid lower. They live at a lower standard there. a lower cost of living. So that kind of explains why it is cheaper for people coming from the US or Western countries. But also, Africa has been one of the best continents to deal with COVID, and I think this just kind of further proves how much it is developing. It has some of the lowest numbers in the world. There are many doctors in Africa, many African doctors, and the African countries have also learned how to deal with sickness from other diseases that they've had to deal with in the past. And I think that also just really helps them progress and develop more and more. Senegal itself is one of the top countries in the world who have with the lowest numbers and who has just dealt with the whole pandemic pretty well. So in conclusion, these are just a few misconceptions that I wanted to talk about. There are many more misconceptions people have of Africa, but I only had so much time, so I chose a few that I have personally heard or been asked before. Africa is not just a desert. It has many cities. There are wild animals, but not everywhere. Africa is not small. It's the second largest continent. And Africa is developing and progressing every year. Proof of this, like I just said, I think is seeing how well it's done with the pandemic. Having grown up on this continent, I have a desire for people to see it how I do, to see the beauty and diversity of it, to know that there is more to the continent than what they see on TV and read in books. So I just wanted to talk about a few of these things because they're things that I've heard before and just some things I want to clear up. If you have the chance to go to Africa or to a specific African country, I think you should take it. It's a wonderful place, and I think it'll really help you see things differently, just being there for yourself. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.